Get the latest, first of all, on the school shooting near Denver. It's happened again. CNN's Nick Watt is joining us. He's following the late-breaking developments. So what are you learning, Nick?
Well, Wolf, we have just learned in the past couple of minutes that the lockdown in that school district has now been lifted. As you mentioned, 2 suspects in custody. SWAT teams were going room by room through that school to make sure that there was not a third shooter. Now, on those suspects, we hear from the local undersheriff that she believes that they are juveniles, but no more information on them so far. No indication whether they were actually students at this school. We're told that the shooting, they believe, began in the middle school, and there was luckily a sheriff's substation just a block away. So officers were on the scene very, very quickly, and they report that shots were still being fired as they entered the building. And they also reported some kind of struggle going on between the suspects and people from the school. We're waiting to get more details on that itself. And as you mentioned, Wolf, 7 or possibly 8 people injured right now. This is a large school, 1,850 students, K through 12. Now, we have spoken to some local hospitals, one hospital where 5 people are being treated. We are told that 1 of those people is in fair condition and 4 others are in serious condition. No word yet on the ages of those victims. But as you mentioned, Wolf, this is just 7 or 8 miles from Columbine, and that shooting just over 20 years ago where 2 students killed 13 people, and obviously so many lessons learned from that now employed at school shootings like this to try and keep as many people as possible safe. Wolf?
I know you're following the story, Nick. We will stay in close touch with you. If you get new developments, you'll let us know right away. Yep. Thank you very much. This Democratic Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado is joining us. He's a member of the Intelligence Committee. He's also a Democratic presidential candidate. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. And I know you've been following this latest school shooting in your home state of Colorado and Highlands Ranch, and our hearts certainly go out to the community there, everyone affected. You also have a lot of experience as the former superintendent of Denver Public Schools. First of all, I know you're monitoring this. What can you tell us on the very latest?
I think, Wolf, that you've got the same information we do, which is that so far we know there are 8 people wounded to varying degrees, and that they have 2 suspects in custody. It's a K-12 STEM school in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, which is in Douglas County, just south of Denver, the school district that I used to be superintendent of. And as we are talking, my understanding is that parents are still waiting to be reunited with their children. So obviously this is a very terrible situation for all of them.
It is an awful, awful situation, and it's awful every time we hear about a school shooting. Do law enforcement agencies, where you are, not right now, but in Colorado, have the resources they need to respond? Because unfortunately it's happening all too often.
Well, I think it's not just a matter of law enforcement. We've got to have the resources in our schools to prevent this kind of thing from happening to begin with. And I don't want to really talk about policy today, but I will say that I talked to my daughter on the way over here tonight, who's 14 years old and is at home. And she said, yeah, I heard it was 2 kids. And I said, well, I think the number is 8. And she said, oh, I thought it was a small shooting. Now it's a big one. I mean, you know, our kids are having to worry about this when they go to school, and that every day when something like this happens. It's not right. They shouldn't have to do that. And I just hope that all the parents tonight that are there to find their children are reunited, and that law enforcement and others that need to be first responders here, including the doctors and nurses, get the support they need from our community, which I know they will. Unfortunately, Wolf, as you know, in Colorado, like so many other places around the country, we've faced more than our share of this. Columbine was now 20 years ago when 12 children were killed and 1 teacher was shot, and then we had the Aurora the Aurora movie theater shooting that wasn't that long ago either. So it's obviously a terrible day for everybody.
You know, I've spoken to so many parents, Senator, who are also upset that it's almost become a regular routine matter that these young little kids in elementary schools and middle schools and high schools, they now on a regular basis have to have these so-called shooting drills to practice, God forbid, if something were to happen at their schools and these kids come home and they say, you know, we had to do X, Y, and Z. How does a community deal on a regular basis, especially in Colorado, where you're from?
Yeah, I mean, that's it, Wolf. The kids, every time one of these things happen, we sit in my living room, we have a conversation with our daughters about this, and they do drill for it regularly. In fact, you can see in the photos of the school today that there are kids who know exactly how to line up, kids who know exactly what they're supposed to do when something that happens. And obviously, tonight's not the night to talk about what to do about it, but I do say, as a former school superintendent, that it's just deeply unfair that our children are having to endure this in our country. Children in other countries don't have to endure it. Other generations of American children haven't had to endure it. This is a burden that we have placed uniquely on the next generation of Americans, and it's deeply unfair.
It certainly is, and it's an unfortunate sign of the times that these little kids have to go through a drill like that and come home and tell their moms and dads, you know, they were practicing in case a killer or shooter comes into our school. It's a really sad commentary on what's going on. Senator Bennet, I know you've got a lot going on. We're grateful to you for joining us. Thanks. We'll have a substantive policy discussion on many issues down the road.
I appreciate your having me, Wolf. Thank you very much.
Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, appreciate it very much. We're going to have a lot more on all the breaking news